Welcome to another video by Meston Educational Services. In this particular video, we are going to look at loops, and we'll look at the while loop and the for loop. So we will first look at the while loop. So we'll go and add a Python page, and we'll call it loop 1. And we are actually going to look at the while loop. So I'm going to give a value to m. Let's say the starting value for m is 3, and the value for m will keep changing in the loop. Now I'll go and add the while loop, and I'm going to put a condition that m actually lies between 2 and 7. Now 7 will not be included when I run the loop, so it will stop at 7, and I have to actually assign the step size. So I'm going to do print the value of m plus 2, and each time I'm actually increasing the value by 1 for m, and I get these 5 outputs over there. I can increase the value or the step size rather than keeping it as 1. I can change it to 0.5 as well, and that's what I'm doing now, and I'll get more outputs. So you can actually in the while loop modify the step size to even a float value. Now let's go and look at another loop, and we will this time actually use it for graphing. So I'm going to assign, so we are going to give a value of 3, b a value of 2, and c a value of 0, and we are actually going to work in a domain of 0 to 3 pi. So lower bound is 0, upper bound is 3 pi. So that's my domain, and m will be the value of a lower bound each time over there to start. Now the y value will be an empty list to start with. Likewise, the x value would also be an empty list, and these will get populated when I run the while loop. So what I'm going to do next is to go and add the while loop. So here we go and add the while loop, and the iteration is going to be with the lower bound. So we are saying m takes a value between the lower bound and the upper bound, and now let's go and say x value would actually be the m value, and I'm going to append that to the list each time. So that's just going to be simply the m value. So each time that m value will get added to my x value list, and likewise the y value is going to be a sine function, which I'm going to do as 3 times, and I've already assigned that. So a times sine of m, rather actually let's go and make it b times n m. So I'm going to do it b times m, and let's do plus c. So that's my sine function, and now I need to tell it what my step size will be. So I'm going to say m is going to increase each time by 0.01. So m plus equals 0.01. That's my step size. Now I don't want to print this list because I'm going to get a whole lot of data points for x and y. So I'm going to simply go and graph it. So I've just added the graphing module, and the first thing I do is to use the buffer, so that will give me the graph instantly rather than going point by point. And I'm going to go and do some setup. So the first thing I want to do is to add a grid. So the x value will be 1, the y value would also be 1, that's the scale, and I'll keep that as dotted. The next thing that I want to do is go and in the setup I'm going to actually give the automatic window size. So it will scale it according to my x values and y values. So I tend to use plot auto window as an option rather than manually trying to set the window size. So it will automatically set that. The next thing I want to do is go and give it a pen size and thickness. So I'll keep that as medium and solid, and I've got the plot grid is dotted there. And the other thing that I want to do is probably go and add the axis. So let's go and turn the axis on, and by default the color will be black unless I go and give it a color. So let's go and use the draw option, and I'm going to plot the x val and the y val. Now at this stage, as I said, I haven't assigned any color, so it will give me a graph in black, but I'll actually shortly go and assign the color over there. So let's go and select the color option, and you can put any values. So I'm going to put for red 240, and for green 100, and for blue I'll just put 75, and it's going to give me a color. So my axis was black, and that's my graph. So that's the full code that I wrote. So you can pause the video here and look at the code. So that's the entire code that I used for graphing. So that was the while loop. In this while loop, I've actually got two conditions. So I've given a value of 12, b a value of -2. A in this case lies between 12 and 25, and b can take values between -13 and -2. And I'm going to print a, b, and then a plus b. Now the value of a each time is increasing by 2, so that's the plus over there by 2, and b, the values are reducing by 1 each time. Now both the conditions have to be met simultaneously, so I'm not going to get too many outputs. And let's run this now, and you will see I get these outputs over here. However, what I'm going to do next is to change the word and to or, and what will happen, as long as either of the two conditions are being met, the loop will continue to run. So let's go and change the and to or, and I'll have a lot more outputs. So even though it says a lies between 12 and 25, now you can see a actually does go up to 34 as well. So as long as one of the conditions is met, the loop continues to run. Next, we are going to look at the for loop with a list. So I'm going to create a list which will be a string. So I'll call it M, and I'll separate each character. So it says Python is cool, and you'll see each character is separated. And what I'm going to do is output the ASCII value for each of those letters. So we know on the keyboard every character has got a specific ASCII value and UTF-8. So I'm going to say for I in the list M, so my list is M, print the letter. So it will print each of the letters, and in the calculator I have got a syntax which is or even in Python it says odd, and what odd will give me is the ASCII value for each of those letters. So when I run this, you will see for instance capital P is 80, then Y is 121. Now because the keyboard distinguishes between capital P and small p, now if I run it, small p would be a different value, and that is 112. So that's actually a for loop that I ran from the list. So I've got another text over here. This time I haven't separated the text by comma, and what I'm using is the byte array command from Python. And for I in my array, which I have defined as byte array, for the text that I typed in hello viewers. And what that 2 does over there is it's going to strip off 0b from binary, and append is going to the bin list, that is an empty list that I have created. It's just going to add the values there. So you will see it's given me all the binary values over there. Now let's go and change that to 1, and you'll see it gives me B as my first letter. It's telling me it's binary. It stripped the 0 off, and if I change that to 0, it will give me 0b. That's how Python defines a binary number, 0b, and then now in my next program here, I'm just taking a number 55, and I'm going to give you three different outputs. So the first one is just going to give the output with 0b. The second one is going to strip 0b, and in the third one it's going to actually give me 8 bits. So every number that I output would actually be 8 bits over there. So you'll see I'm saying 8 zeros there plus this, and let's run this, and you'll see the 3 different outputs. So the first one has 0b, the second one is just the binary number, and the last one is with 8 bits over there. The next program is going to convert a binary set into a text. So I'm using the int command to convert it to ASCII, and then I'm using the character command to actually display the string or the text. So I've split it into 8 and 8. So the first 8 binary bits over there will be a certain character. So colon, and then 8 will pick up the first 8, and then the 8 and colon will pick up the next 8, and 2 because it's binary. Integer converts to ASCII, and then the character converts the ASCII into text or string. So when I run it, it gives me the letters H and I over here. Okay, now let's move on to the for loops in range. So we are going to look at three possible options of using the range command. So the first is just range. So let's look at this one here, and it just says where it will end. It doesn't have a start point, so it's just saying the size. So I'll use the letter I for iteration, and I'm going to put the size as 5. And what it will do is it will actually go from 0 to 4. So 5 is not going to be included, but what it will do is it will give me 5 output values. So what I'm printing is the square of each of the numbers. So 0 square, 1 square, and so on. And my last number will be 4 square. So it's going to give me 5 output values. So when I say range 5, 5 will not be included. So you can see I get 0 square, 1 square, and so on. So the next one, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And what I'll have now is actually a start point and an end point. So K, and by default, the step size would be 1. So I'm going from -3 to 4. And in this case, it will actually go from -3 to 3. So what I will get will be 7 output values. So I'm going to do K square plus 9. So it's going to give me -3 square plus 9 and so on. So the values actually that K will take will be from -3 to 3. So it will go -3 square plus 9. So I will have 7 output values, and 4 will not be included. So these are the outputs over here. And lastly, let's look at another one over here. And in this case, I'm actually going to specify the step size. So I'll have a start value, a stop value, and a step size. I'm going to still go K, start at 2 and at 11. So actually, I'm going in steps of 2. So it will go from 2 to 10. So K will take values 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, and will output 5 values in the loop. So my first output would be -5 and then 7 and so on. Thank you for watching this video on while and for loop, and I tend to use the while and for loop extensively, so I'll be putting up some more videos for you to follow soon. Thank you once again.